Alright, welcome to the first video in a series of videos covering Algebra 1, which is essentially the study of solving problems with symbols, which we will call variables. This is a pretty simple class once you get used to it, but the main thing is that you just have to get used to dealing with letter expressions of numbers. Okay, so let's start with the first thing that you will encounter in Algebra 1. So, you might be asked to evaluate 3x when x is equal to 5. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what the heck does this even mean? So, variables, which x is our variable, are just essentially placeholders for numbers, and they're useful when we don't know what a number is or when we can just define a number in its place. So to do this, all I have to do is replace x with 5. So I just multiply the two, and multiplication can be represented with parentheses if you didn't know. So 3 times 5, that is equal to 15. Stop. Alright. Anyway, these kind of problems are just going to be called evaluating expressions. So what they're going to do is they're going to give you some sort of variable, and you'll just have to evaluate it at some certain number. So I'll give you one more practice problem, and then we will move on. Something a little bit more complicated. Let's say evaluates 15 over r minus 1 when r is equal to 5. Now, what we do is we take this expression and we plug in is sort of a term for just substituting r and 5. So what we'll do is we'll say 15 over 5 minus 1. Because we say r equals 5, so we just switch r with 5. Everywhere we see r, we just put 5 instead. So this is just 3. And of course, 3 minus 1 is equal to 2. Now you might encounter something evaluating expressions that has multiple variables, and it's the same idea. Let's say evaluate AB minus 0.5b when a equals 1 and b is equal to 5. Great. So now we just do the same thing, except now we plug in 1 every time we see a and 5 every time we see b. Also, if you're confused on what this means, this just means multiplication. So, yeah. So anyway, we plug in 1 for a, so we do this. 5 for b, that just becomes that, minus 0.5 times 5. And you'll notice this just becomes a PEMDAS problem pretty much. So 1 times 5 is just 5. 5 times 0.5 is 2.5. 5 minus 2.5 is equal to 2.5. Oh, bruh. Alright. Anyway, there's the answer. But yeah. Moving on. You might also be asked to do something called combining like terms. So I'll just go over a problem with you guys so you guys get it. Combine like terms. Alright. So, what the heck? Alright, there we go. I don't know why it keeps doing that. But, the idea here is to just simplify this expression. Well, I know it's hard to see. Can I turn that off? Whatever. Let me rewrite it so it's easier to see without all that. There we go. So if you remember from before, if you subtract a negative number, that just becomes a positive number. So we can say this: negative 12 minus 6p plus 2, and then negative 12 plus 2 is just negative 10. So this just becomes negative 10 minus 6p. And you'll notice that when we combine terms, we can only add like variables together and like numbers together. So I can only add numbers with numbers, and I can only add variables with variables. And of course, there's only one variable here, so it's just going to be this as our answer. I'm going to introduce two variables, and we'll see how complicated it gets. It's not too bad. But let's say 3x plus 3 times x plus y. So now we're going to try and create an equivalent expression for this. So, of course, following PEMDAS rules, we're going to distribute this 3x plus 3x plus 3y. So we can add these two. If you think about it, 3x plus 3x is just going to be 6x. So that just becomes 6x plus 3y, and that gives us our answer. Anyway, that is the introduction to algebra. Pretty much. Just variables and just doing arithmetic with variables. That's the idea, and I'll see you in the next video.